say, R.I.P. SDA. What is this doctor talking about? Rest in peace, SDA. You'll be happy to know I'm not talking about the church. I'm talking about rest in peace, stress, depression, and anxiety. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Amen, amen, amen. You know, those three things, stress, depression, and anxiety, they cause so much physical pain. In fact, I would say at the heart of most of these chronic diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, you find stress, depression, and anxiety. So we need to know how we can tackle it. Now, I don't have time to do everything, but I'm going to share with you a bit. Why don't we start with stress? In fact, stress is when we are worried about what's going on now, right? Depression is when we're worried about what's happened yesterday, and anxiety is when we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's the present worry, the past worry, and future worry. That's it all in a nutshell. What can we do about it? Well, let's talk about stress, shall we? You know, in 2009, the Nobel Prize for Medicine was given for this very cause. They showed us that it doesn't matter what environment you find yourself in. You could be in the most stressful environment on earth. That is not the thing that is going to kill you. The thing that kills you is your response to the stress. So two people could be in the same situation. One takes it calm, the other one takes it stressfully, and the one that takes it stressfully is really going to end their life too quick. Let me give you an example. Let's think about David and Goliath. There you go, David standing before this giant. Nobody wants to meet Goliath, right? Most people would run away. But David realized something. He realized that Goliath wasn't sent to defeat David. Goliath was sent to promote David. The Goliaths in our lives are not sent to defeat us. They're actually sent to promote us if we have faith. If you believe that, you can have peace. If you don't, you'll have stress. Which do you want? Peace, absolutely, absolutely. What about depression? What about depression? How can we get a handle on depression? I said it's about worries of the past. You know, most of us are trapped in this cycle of thinking about the past. This person hurt me, this person robbed me, this person abused me in the past. If we don't learn to let go, if we don't learn to forgive, we will never have peace. Let me give you an example. I don't know if any of you here have ever caught a chimpanzee. Have you ever caught a chimpanzee? No one here? Okay, well, let me tell you how to catch a chimpanzee. They're very clever, so you have to outsmart them. The best thing to do to catch a chimpanzee is to get a large box filled with all the things that chimpanzees like to eat. Bananas, nuts, whatever. You seal that box, you make a little hole in the side, just big enough to let the chimpanzee get his hand in. The chimpanzee comes along, he looks into the box, he puts his hand in, he grabs hold of that banana. Now that he's made a fist, he cannot get his hand out. He's now trapped. And I've seen the trappers throw a net over the chimpanzee that is screaming his head off, but he won't let go of the banana. If he could let go, he'd be free. But he's got hold of it now, so he's trapped. And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly the same for you and me. We cannot let go of the past, so we're trapped. The enemy has got us trapped in stress and depression because we cannot forgive the past. And you might say, well, you know, it's very difficult to forgive. I know it's difficult to forgive. But if you don't forgive, you are only hurting yourself. A good definition is, if you're not forgiving, it's like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die from it. It cannot happen. We have to learn to let go to be free. These are the root causes of depression and stress. Now, what about anxiety? There are many people suffering with anxiety, and many people suffering from severe anxiety. Let me tell you something. For every single case, if you suffer from severe anxiety, it's because you haven't dealt with an issue in the past. I'll give you an example. When I was a junior doctor, I was working in the emergency department. And late at night, there was this big guy, full of tattoos, big guy. And he was waiting patiently. I called him over and I said, "How can I help you?" He said, "Doctor, I've got a splinter in my finger. I wonder if you can get rid of it for me." I said, "Of course. I'm going to take you into the room next door. I'm going to anesthetize your finger, and then I'm going to take the splinter out." "Doctor, what do you mean anesthetize?" "Well, I need to inject your finger a few times to anesthetize it." "But doctor, I don't like needles." He's covered in tattoos. I didn't argue with him. He was bigger than me. Now, I said, "Look, there's no way that I can do this unless I anesthetize your finger." He thought about it. He said, "Doctor, I'm going home." 2 o'clock in the morning, he went home. 2 days later, he came back screaming the place down. Now, he screamed the place down because a little girl had just brushed past his finger that has now blown up, full of blood and pus. It was very, very painful. We couldn't deal with that issue. He had to go to theatre, have an operation. He stayed overnight. Because he was afraid of a little pain, the pain got larger. Ladies and gentlemen, that is just the same with you and me. If we do not deal with something, an issue, because it's too painful to deal with, it doesn't go away. It just gets bigger. You know, I love my wife dearly. She's a beautiful woman. But you know, we go to marriage counseling regularly. And when we go to marriage counseling, I go in and I think to myself, "Hey, you know what? This is great. You know, everything's fine." We get in, we sit down. My wife has got a long list of things that are to talk about me. And you know what? In the beginning, it feels a little painful. But I'm so grateful that we can work through it. We can absorb the little pain to avoid bigger pain later. These are the keys to releasing ourselves from things like stress, depression, and anxiety. If you do this, I guarantee you, because this is not the sort of advice you're going to get from your psychiatrist. If you do this, I guarantee you that you will be able to arise in health, arise in healing, and arise in hope. Good night.